So you're looking after the drink stand now. If I'd known sooner, I would have stopped by this morning. I've got to say, I'm getting curious. I've heard a lot about your mixology skills. I wonder what kinds of drinks you can mix with the ingredients Glenfiddich has prepared. I don't have much of a choice. It's just one thing after another right now. First off, the Knights of Favonius annual combat assessment is coming up. And this year, the standards are higher than ever. As the captain of the reconnaissance company, I have to lead by example. At the very least, I need to rank as one of the top 3 captains in the practical portion. So, I've been intensifying my training lately. Being a descendant of sinners means I have to work hard to maintain my position. I'll have you know I've never once neglected my duties. Anyway, on top of all that, the General Affairs Company has invited a renowned champion duelist from the Court of Fontaine to come here for a swordsmanship exchange. Since I'm one of the captains with the highest attendance rate when it comes to these things, and I'm fairly skilled with a claymore, I was chosen as a representative. I have to prepare thoroughly to make sure I'm a serious match for the champion duelist. And then after the exchange, I need to write at least 6 different reports based on the results. Oh, I sure could. Anything that'll perk me up would be welcome. I'll leave the details to you.
One twinkling starlight for Captain Eula. Hope you like it.
Judging by your confident tone, I'm certain I will. Well then, I'll make sure to savor this thoroughly. Huh, not bad. Sweet and tingly, with a delightful airiness. The fizzy water really brings it to life. I suddenly feel full of vim and vigor. But just one glass doesn't quite scratch the itch. How about something with a bit more bite? Don't hold back. You don't need to worry about putting me on the floor with nothing but a couple of drinks. Works for me. The first company hasn't assigned me any paperwork for tonight, so I'm free to catch up and try your new creations at my leisure. If you want to know what I've been eating recently, I'd better start by mentioning the logistics company's latest revolution. They launched a diet improvement initiative and started distributing a form of standardized canned food to knights operating in the wilderness. In the past, we only had dry rations. Every mealtime we had to set up pots and campfires, roll dice to choose a cook, and take turns standing guard. In all honesty, it was a bit of a hassle. Now we just need to bring our standard field rations, comprising of 5 cans and 9 paper packages. We can heat the cans by the campfire, and then we're ready to eat. You did say, sounds like, right? Our canned food supplier has quite the stellar reputation, and their regular meals are indeed quite good. The problem is, in order to meet preservation standards, they have to make their military-grade meals way too salty. The vice captain of the 5th Company, who has a somewhat dry sense of humor, went so far as to say, this food's bad enough to bring down the wrath of Liyue's stove god. In any case, after eating it for a week, my taste buds have gone completely numb. You can hardly blame the logistics company. After all, it is hard to please everyone. Our feedback has already been submitted, and they should be working on fixing the issue. Of course, having fresh meals prepared in camp by a dedicated company chef is still the best option. Yes, I have. For a while, the situation there was difficult. A gang of outlaw engineers was messing about with some sort of mechanism control technology, attempting to manipulate ruin graders so they could rob merchant caravans. To make matters worse, several veteran knights who had been stationed at Dorman Port were transferred to my squad, and they weren't happy to be taking orders from that Lawrence girl. Leading them on this mission was quite eventful. It took 3 weeks of stealth operations in the snow, with no fires to keep us warm, before we finally located the enemy's stronghold. Those veteran knights faced the bitter cold and were almost taken down by the enemy's smuggled battle mechs. Fortunately, the battle went our way, and they had no choice but to acknowledge my abilities. Me? I'm completely fine. But thank you for your concern. It was mentally tiring for sure, but fortunately, the operation wore them down far more than it did me. They won't be questioning my authority again anytime soon. If any new recruits try to make my life difficult, I'll just have my veterans give them a few friendly pointers. I guess you could call them a permanent solution, huh? That's right. The merchant I got it from called it Romaritime flower fruit extract. It has a very unique smell. Here, have a bottle. Oh, it's a necessary courtesy. In that book Miss Magistus lent me, The Blade Dancer, 20 Years On, it says, after a duel, a Fontanian swordsman will politely invite their defeated opponents to a banquet. To properly play host to Miss Clorand, I searched for quite some time to locate a rare goods merchant in Dorman Port who sold this juice. I had my doubts at first, too. But Amber said something that makes a lot of sense. She said that even if this custom doesn't really exist, following it still shows I've made an effort to understand Fontaine's cultural heritage. Besides, who doesn't like trying new things, right? I'll treat Miss Clorand to this juice at our post-training banquet. Oh my. To be honest, I'm eager to begin, but also a little nervous. Miss Clorand's combat style comes from the mysterious Marechaussee hunters. In the library, there are some old Fontanian newspapers from hundreds of years ago that give some idea of how formidable an organization it was. A more recent newspaper claimed that Miss Clorand was an orphan from an underwater kingdom, and that before battle she would perform rituals inviting spirits to possess her sword. Assuming these rumors are true, Or that Miss Cloran's abilities might even be more extraordinary than that. It's important that I'm prepared for anything. Incorporating elements of swordsmanship into a drink? Huh. Certainly a creative idea, I'll give you that. I sure could do with an energy boost, but how do you plan to express something like swordsmanship with a cocktail? That definitely matches the description I read in that book. That's right. You really know your stuff. I doubt there's anyone else in all of Tevat who could come up with such a perfect metaphor. There's no need to make it sound so fancy. It's just an aristocratic variant of Favonius bladework, with a bit of personal flair. Firewater. In recent years, firewaters gained popularity the world over, following in the wake of prosperous Snezhnayan merchants. These days, almost every tavern has a signature drink that uses it as a base. You really are good. Why don't we try replacing the fruit wine with firewater? As for the alcohol content, that's not a problem. Plenty of the expedition team may have drunk themselves senseless with firewater. But me, I'm full of confidence. Brilliant! I'm looking forward to seeing how you do.
Here's your all-new Seafoam Sword Song, mixed to meet your personal preferences.
Oh my, what beautiful colors! And you even added my Romaritime flower fruit extract. The aroma is perfect, and I can smell the alcohol, but it doesn't stifle the fruity fragrance. Let's see how it tastes. Give me a moment to come up with the right words. I need to think carefully. I know it's unbecoming of a lady, and a proper connoisseur would savor their drinks slowly. But I'm sorry, this is just too good to be true. Can you mix me another? Ah. Oh, no, what was I going to say? I've completely lost my train of thought. Whatever. I feel fantastic. This cocktail. Oh, it's the best I've ever had. I think I'm gonna head home and get some sleep. Don't worry about me. This is the happiest tipsy I've been in years. I'm still far from being drunk. By the time I've gone a few rounds with that, Miss Chlorine, and completed my reports, I'll have been on duty for 3 months straight. Jean. The acting grandmaster. Isn't it about time she gave me some time off? I won't be forgetting this injustice in a hurry. You mark my words.
Suspicion confirmed. While patrolling the area, I was sure I'd sensed a familiar presence, so I came over to take a look. And sure enough, here you are. If Miss Charlotte were to see you like this, I'm guessing she'd take 100 pictures and write up a report. Sword-wielding traveler's secret side hustle. Exclusive cocktails from Tevat's Explorer Extraordinaire. You'd make the front pages of every major newspaper. And there'd be crowds of Fontanian tourists flocking to your drink stand, causing gridlock on the streets of Mondstadt. Luckily for you, I turned down Miss Charlotte's request to accompany me here, so you're unlikely to be seeing any scenes like that. Let's quietly celebrate this moment of peace. And on that note, I'd like a caramel blaze. That look on your face tells me you have a lot of questions you want to ask. Calm and effortless. I'm shocked to learn you're a real pro at this sort of thing.
Your caramel blaze is ready. Try not to drink it all in one go.
Huh. It sure lives up to its name. The color reminds me of a raging fire, while that aroma really hits you head on. It's quite strong. I'm all right. I just need a little time to get used to it. As I recall, the last time I drank alcohol was at a wine tasting event that Navia invited me to last year. I only had a small sip of Sassica wine, and it was nowhere near as strong as this concoction of yours. From a purely rational perspective, alcohol can cause dizziness and impair one's ability to work, so it's best avoided altogether. But when Miss Farina saw me off at the docks, she mentioned that Mondstadt is the land of wine and poetry. Since I'm here, I thought I should at least try the local specialties. In fact, according to my intelligence, the captain of the reconnaissance company, who I'm preparing to spar with, has quite the refined taste for fine wine. Her publicly available battle reports are truly a sight to behold. Out of the utmost respect for her skills, I feel compelled to deepen my knowledge of Mondstadt's wines. I truly appreciate all the trouble you're going to. Indeed it is. The knights codenamed Hazelnut 3 and Hazelnut 5 gave me this crest. I must say, it's exquisite. They told me the design has only just been finalized. Apparently, it's only presented to important guests. They said they're making a badge for you, too, but it hasn't been finished yet. You're not wrong. I guess it's similar to how I can't remember the name of every clerk in the Palais Mermonia, but I'm certain you'll get to know them in time. They're clearly seasoned veterans. Even though they work desk jobs, they still turn up in full armor. After handling my affairs, they headed to the tavern for a gathering, saying they wanted to continue last night's duel and determine who had the highest alcohol tolerance. Drinking barrels of beer the night before, yet being able to work with clear minds the next day. Whew. So what you're saying is, while Mondstadters may seem carefree, they actually have an admirable ability to know their limits when it comes to drinking. Huh? Does that mean she's already finished her commission? Well, she's certainly efficient. Once I return to Fontaine, perhaps I can let Sigewinne know that I'd be happy to purchase her latest perfume. I'm not sure I'd say that. On my way to Mondstadt, we happened to take the same boat. Naturally, we got to chatting. I've often heard Sigewinne praise her work. After conversing with her on the journey over, I must say, she is indeed a rare and refined individual. She's gentle and composed, yet keeps others at a distance. Perhaps it's due to her profession. I find this approach ideal. It allows one to maintain a lasting sense of inner peace. Oh, thank you, but there's really no need to set anything up. Our work rarely intersects, and our social circles hardly make for a Venn diagram, if you know what I mean. Best to just let things take their natural course. When I'm working, I often drink coffee. But with meals, I prefer a lighter tasting drink, like Buell fruit juice. Since I eat a lot of meat, the slight acidity of the juice helps balance out the greasiness. Over time, I've grown accustomed to the sour taste. After the swordsmanship exchange, the Knights of Favonius rather kindly treated me to some traditional Mondstadt cuisine. I had 8 different meat dishes, and all of them were excellent. The portions were huge, and only the highest quality cuts were used. Everything was cooked to absolute perfection. Of course, there was still room for improvement. When catering to tourists, the sticky honey roast and pile 'em up might benefit from a slightly lighter sauce. I've certainly tried all the red meat dishes. I think I've had enough calories to sustain 3 days of vigorous work, so I've had to decline all subsequent dining invitations. To be honest, I can still taste the grease. There must be a way to cleanse my palate. I've seen a little. I took a stroll around the city the first day I got here. Navia's done some rather extensive research on this place. Many of the scenes and illustrations for the tabletop troupe were inspired by views of Mondstadt. However, the way she describes the atmosphere in her world building is quite different from the real Mondstadt. The deepest impression I've got since arriving here is one of swords and shields. Perhaps because I've mostly just visited the blacksmith and the training grounds. Recently, the newer weapons and armor produced in Mondstadt have been created using a completely different heat treatment process from those in Fontaine, with a higher carbon content in the surface layer. While this has slightly reduced their overall toughness, their impact resistance has greatly improved. These newer weapons give off a smell like overbrewed coffee. Perhaps it's because that scent gave me such a positive first impression. You see, Fontaine's signature metalwork is often coated with a protective agent that contains Marcotte. Over time, the faint fragrance becomes overly sweet. And for some reason, it makes my teeth feel funny. I don't imagine the scent of Mondstadt's swords and shields would cause the same level of irritation. Of course, there is a solution to this problem. The next time you find yourself in Fontaine, there's another protective agent I can recommend. One that's as neutral as water, without any excess fragrance. If you also dislike being bombarded with sweetness, this protective agent should suit you well. Are you already planning the details of our hypothetical get-together? Based on my previous experiences with alcohol, I guess my tolerance is similar to Emily's. Fruit liqueur is probably my limit. So when the time comes, I think you'd be best off mixing similar drinks for the both of us. All right, I'll make sure I'm mentally prepared. Even if it's still a bit strong, I'll do my best to finish it.
All right, this new creation is called Leisure Time Lightning, a cocktail made exclusively for champion duelists. Enjoy!
Have you added fruit wine? It tastes wonderful. This is ideal for me. There's a subtle saltiness that combines well with the tartness of the fruit and the sweetness of the caramel. Each sip balances delicately on the edge of perfection. The color of the wine also fits well with the name, and the lightning imagery contrasts with the fiery nature of the caramel glaze. But where does the leisure time part come in? I see. That certainly matches the impression this cocktail gives me. Its unique aroma and taste will hold a special place in my memories of Mondstadt. Do you think, if the chance were to present itself, you'd be interested in mixing drinks somewhere else? A cafe, for instance, or the Hotel de Boer. Mostly for Navia and Miss Farina's sake. Though obviously I'd be more than happy to try more of your masterpieces myself. I understand. I won't try to strong-arm you. In any case, I truly appreciate your hospitality. Thanks to you, whether I'm facing the powerful captain of the reconnaissance company or discussing strategy with the Knights of Favonius, I'll be in my best condition.